Relationships are all there is. Everything in the universe exists only because it is in relationship with everything else. Nothing exists in isolation. And we have to stop pretending we are individuals that can do it alone. That's how this book starts. It's a book that I was given after I heard a speaker in 2006, the author Keith Ferrazzi, gave a speech on this book in Seattle. And after the session, he gave a book to each of us that was at the session. By the way, I have one for each of you, or Heinz has one for each of you when we leave here today. I read the book on the flight home, about a 4-hour flight home. I read the book, and a lot of times when I read a book for the first time, I had to read it a couple more times before it really started to click. But that, reading the book in 2006, started now an 8-year journey for me of trying to find out what happened to relationships or lack of relationships in my life. Since then, I've read lots of other books, and a lot of the material you heard me talk about today is bits and pieces from those authors like Tim Sanders and Start With Why, Simon Sinek, and all sorts of authors, and you'll hear bits and pieces of some of those today. But what I'm going to try and do is just leave you with 3 points about relationships. And I'm going to do it by telling stories, as the previous speaker was so fond of. And he's right, telling stories is the concrete. Most of what we do when we talk to advisors or clients is the abstract, but storytelling is really a concrete way to communicate. The 3 points I want to leave you with today are: relationships matter more than transactions. The second point is connecting is a basic human need. I can't prove that, that's just my opinion. And the third is we underestimate our power to do good. I was talking to Ante last night about, we have some common friends that were traders at the Board of Trade. I spent the first 20 years of my career at the Board of Trade yelling and screaming in the pit with 600 other animals. And I retired from that in 1998 and started this business. And I was in the pit with 600 people. And do you know how many of them that I stay in touch with today? One. Why? Why is that? Because a trader, the life of a trader, was the true hunter game. The true kill or be killed, eat or be eaten game. I had no reason and no use for friendships or relationships in the pit. It was an angry place and an aggressive place, and that's just the way it was. But our business today, your business and my business, is much more about farming than hunting. It's about planting seeds and tending to them and caring for them so I can grow a crop the next year, and so I can harvest the crop, so I can feed my families. It's a completely different mindset, and it's been a very difficult one for me to adjust to. And frankly, the first couple years of my practice, I didn't, and I wasn't very successful. It wasn't until after I changed the paradigm in my life, I changed the way I was thinking, to be less of a hunter and more of a farmer. So the first story I want to tell you is, as I was reading the book for the second or third time, I forget which it was, I was told in my town there's this very high net worth spine surgeon, and everybody said if you can get Dr. Tompkins as a client, he's got all sorts of money, and he's very influential, he's that center of influence guy. So somehow I got his cell phone number, and I called the cell phone one day, and a woman answers, Lisa. And Lisa said, Dr. Tompkins phone. I said, well, I'd like to invite Dr. Tompkins out to a breakfast or a lunch. I've heard that he's a successful physician, and I'd really like to get a chance to get to know him a little bit better. Well, Dr. Tompkins' schedule is pretty full, and we'll give you a call in a week or two if something gets freed up in his schedule. So a week or two go by, nothing happens. I call back again. Lisa answers again. Dr. Tompkins' schedule is full again. This goes on for a couple of months. One Friday evening, I'm at the local high school football game, and I'm sitting with some friends, and we're talking about, hey, what are you going to do this weekend? Well, we're going to go to Lisa's birthday party. It's Saturday night. And I said, Lisa, so-and-so. Lisa, is that the same Lisa that works for Dr. Tompkins as his nurse? I said, yeah, I think it is the same girl. And I said, is her birthday on Saturday? They said, no, it's actually Monday, but we're just having a party because it's the weekend. We're having a party on Saturday. So Monday, I called the same number that called for the last 3 months, expecting the same person to answer the phone. she does. She says, Dr. Tompkins' phone. And I break into, happy birthday to you, happy birthday. And she laughs and she gets a little bit embarrassed. And she says, oh, I suppose you want to talk to Dr. Tompkins. And I say, no, I just wanted to wish you happy birthday. And hung up. And a couple days later, my phone rings, and Dr. Tompkins has availability for breakfast. Within the first 12 months of Dr. Tompkins, fast forward, he became a client. He's probably one of my top 3 clients now. In the next 12 months, Dr. Tompkins referred me 19 more clients. And that's a powerful story. And the reason that, if you read the book, the reason that that's important is the gatekeepers to offices, to high net worths, to busy people are the key to opening up the relationship. But when I made that call, obviously I wanted to get to Dr. Tompkins, but I had to make that call with the only intent in mind of caring about Lisa. And that had an impact on her. I'm going to pick on somebody here. Maybe Jason, actually, I sort of ask you permission if you don't mind, but one of the things I think in our business, and typically when I talk to a client for the first time, I used to ask, hey, tell me about your goals. The problem with that question is, in our business, depending on what's going on with the market, depending on what's going on at home, depending on what's going on physically or whatever, honestly, that answer can change from week to week. So why would I ask the client a question about what their goals are and then try to create a financial plan towards that goal if it's just going to change? It's a moving target, it doesn't mean no good. So I started asking the question a couple of years ago when I meet a new client. The first question I'll ask is, what was money like growing up? So Jason, you never heard that question until just now, but just tell me, if you don't mind sharing, what was money like growing up?
Dad was a hard worker, tight.
Dad was a hard worker, it was tight. What's your first memory of money?
Getting an allowance for good grades.
And what that means to you?
A lot. Motivation.
Do you think, is there anything about that experience in growing up that you think might have translated into your adult life about how you handle money and how you save and what you teach your kids?
I definitely still listen to it.
Okay. See that, and I could, if I was in a meeting session, I probably would go a lot further and a lot deeper with that. But he tells me more about him and what's important to him and his goals by answering those questions. Because I'm not asking him about his goals. He just told me about his history, about his fiber. That doesn't change. That stays the same. I'm a better advisor for Jason if I understand those basic things about him. And I'll tell you one of the stories, the second part of that question, which is what I asked, what's your first memory of money? So I have a good friend, Bob, and he's a client of mine and has become one of my best friends, actually. I asked him that story. By the way, this doesn't go just for new relationships. I've gone back into my book of business, and I've started asking this question to guys that have been clients of mine for years, but I never asked the question. So that's Bob. I never asked the question, he'd been a client for years. So I said, Bob, what's your first memory of money? He goes, I'll never forget it. And a lot of times, something pops right into your head, some story. I'll never forget it. I was at the grocery store with my stupid older brother and my mom, and we were buying groceries. I'm 7, he's 10. And this is back a while ago, you guys don't remember this, but back in the old days when moms had these little calculators, the little handheld things, loaf of bread, 49 cents, gallon of milk, $1, whatever, and they keep track. And when in households where budgets were tight, they had to keep track because she only had so much money in her purse. So Bob's mom's going through picking out groceries, and they get to the checkout counter, and Bob's older brother punches him on the shoulder and says, put one of those Willie Nelson tapes into the cart, mom's cart, so she won't see it. So he goes, I'm idiot me, I do it. I throw the tape on my mom's cart, and the lady's checking out the groceries, and gives his mom the total for the groceries. And of course, she's over. And he said, I'll never forget this. She broke down and cried in the line at the grocery store. All the people were looking at us, the other cashiers, the people behind us in line, and I will never forget how that made me feel. And to this day, Bob is that guy. He's that millionaire next door that lives below his means, that's got money squirreled away in places I don't probably even know about. But he told me more about himself with that brief story because I asked than I would ever have got from any intake form that we use in this business. The second point is connecting is a basic human need. And really, what is connecting? It's a way to build community. It's trust. It's imagine a tribe in the prehistoric days, and a saber-toothed tiger is going to attack your village every night. And if it were every man for himself, you wouldn't be able to watch all sides. But if the tribe got into a circle and with their backs to each other, they can make a circle that can protect the entire tribe from 360 degrees. And that trust, that sense of community, is what connecting is about. And we're compelled to do it. We want to connect with people. We want to have some commonality, some sense of home. And a good way to sort of illustrate that is, pick on you for a second. Where do you live?
Houston.
Houston, okay. Yeah, you know some people in Houston that you like and trust, probably good friends of yours and so forth. Maybe one or two, okay. So if one of them walked up to you and said, hey, you should eat at this new restaurant that just opened up, you have a sense of trust and a sense of connection with them, where that recommendation would carry some legitimacy. So you probably consider going to that restaurant, right? So let's say you go to New York City and you see somebody with a Houston football jersey on, and you don't walk the other way. No, you walk up to them and you know they're from Houston, but you don't know them, right? This is one of the people from Houston that you don't know. There might be a few of those too. So you walk up to this person, or this person walks up to you in New York and says, hey, you should try this new restaurant down on Fifth Avenue. So now normally, if a random New Yorker walked up to you and said you should try this restaurant, you'd think he was out of his mind. But because the guy has a Houston shirt on, I'm from Houston too, there's this innate level of trust that's already established because you're connected in a way, right? So now let's say you go to Paris, and you're on the train and you hear some guy with a southern accent, and he sounds like he might be from Texas or the South, but he's for sure from the United States. And he says, hey, you should go eat at this restaurant. Automatically, you're going to have this. We're drawn to that. And if you understand that we're just looking for a reason to connect with somebody, now your job becomes, let's find a way that you can connect with me, or that I can connect to you. Let me find the common ground that we have in common. It might be some little thing where I went to school, what I like to do for hobbies, It could be anything. And we are drawn to that. And that first spark of connection is the first spark of developing a relationship. So I put this up there because texting should not be confused with developing a relationship. Actually, texting, I like this picture because there's a lot of studies done about people that are so addicted to texting and emailing that they would actually fall asleep in the middle of the text. And I found this picture kind of amusing. But one of the things about texting is that when we hear that little ding, and I haven't heard one in here yet today, so thank you, but when we hear that little ding on our phone, and I'm the worst offender of all, our body releases a chemical called dopamine. And dopamine is a chemical that's released when we know there's going to be a reward or a payoff. It's what the cavemen had running through their veins when they'd hunt for 2 or 3 days to get meat, because they kept them going because they knew that there was going to be nutrition.